Welcome, everyone. My name is Alan DeMonso, and I'm the founder of The Awakened Man, and this is the Evolving Man podcast. I'm wondering how often you take your car in for a tune-up. Tune-ups are really critical in maintaining that engine's peak performance. Well, guess what? We are no different, gentlemen. And that's what this quarter, the third quarter of 2021's Reclaim, Retool, and Respond is all about. We're going to really focus on the idea of recalibration. Because regardless of how successful we are, there comes a time when we need to recalibrate not only our goals, but our action plans, our minds, and our hearts. And then, just like a finely tuned engine, then we can continue on our journey to becoming men of purposeful action. But before we get in all that, I just want to remind you to join our brotherhood, the Band of Brothers. This is our community of strong, resilient men, where each man is dedicated to the growth of not only himself, but those of his brothers. So currently, we're on a bit of a hiatus. I'm retooling the program, recalibrating it, so to speak, and we're going to get back to that, having those regular meetings in a very near future. In the meantime, if you're interested in raising your standards as a father, a husband, an entrepreneur, then I encourage you to participate in our Heroes Quest. It's a 90-day challenge, a 90-day mentoring program that's aimed to improve at least one aspect of your life. So all of this can be found at the membership site at members, that's plural, members.theawakenedman.net. Now, let's get on with today's episode.
Today's man knows who he is, where he stands, and what he aspires to become. Solid in his convictions, owner of his destiny, ever evolving into husbands and fathers our wives and children expect and deserve. We are the masters of our life and the leaders of our homes and community. Welcome to the movement. Stay strong, my brother.
Well, welcome, brothers. Thank you so much for joining me today. And yes, I want to start off, again, as usual, with a couple of questions to really get us in sync with today's topic. So what areas of your life need a recalibration? And now when you think about those areas, what are some things that you could do to recalibrate in those areas so that you could optimize your effectiveness? Well, it's been 6 months have passed since we started this journey this year on Reclaim, Retool, and Respond. And I'm just wondering how your journeys are coming along. Are you living as men of purposeful action? And for some of us, we're probably hitting our stride really well, maybe in all facets, maybe in some of the facets of our life. And in others, for others of us, maybe we've fallen off a little bit, we've fallen behind, and we're not as effective as we'd like to be. But it doesn't really matter, because in either situation, there's going to come a time when we need to pause and reflect on our efforts. So that's really what this quarter of recalibration is all about. We're going to recalibrate our goals, our action plans, our minds, and our hearts. So think of it this way. Think of it as taking time to do a bit of a stretch. We stretch so we can prevent any injury. Remember our friend David Goggins in Can't Hurt Me in his book? It took him a few years to figure out that his run and gun lifestyle brought pain and misery for him, didn't it? And it wasn't long after his heart surgery that he started to incorporate a practice of stretching to recalibrate his body. So really, we are no different. We're just not going to wait for surgery in order for us to take action. And isn't that pretty typical of most guys? We have to wait for something really dramatic to happen before we're going to take some action. So before I really get into this quarter's monthly themes, I do want to spend a little bit of time discussing about what the topic of recalibration is really all about. Like I said, I know it's been 6 months and we've been doing this work, and maybe you're thinking, well, why are we waiting 6 months to talk about the topic really of recalibration? Well, realistically, you can't wait that long. Look, you can wait for shit to go wrong, and like you can do with your cars, or you can bring them to the mechanic, and it could be really bad news. And you know the old ad that used to be, you can pay me now or you pay me later? So truthfully, recalibration is something that you shouldn't wait a long time to do. It's something that we need to incorporate in our day-to-day lives. But this quarter, I want to spend time focusing on it to really have us get it understood of what we need to do to recalibrate ourselves in all aspects of our lives. So the next thing I want us to recognize is that recalibration is not just about abandoning our goals. It's really about realigning the direction that our goals are moving in. And this happens all the times with goals, doesn't it? See, we have a target, then we get on our path, and then life happens and it throws us a few curveballs, right? And as we navigate, things start to shift and they change. And so, ideally, what we're doing unconsciously or consciously is we're refining our vision as we're working towards our goal. Now, I'm reading a book of the month for one of the future books of the month here for our men's program. And the book's called Think Like a Monk, and it's by Jay Shetty. And he tells a story about this master teaching his apprentice about clarity by taking him to a mirror that's hidden in this old room. And so when the apprentice looks at the mirror, the master asks him, "What do you see?" And so, of course, the apprentice can hardly see himself through this mirror because it's all full of dust and grime. Now, the dust on that mirror really represents the influences that have piled up over the years as we've attempted to mold ourselves into likable men. And in essence, our values and the truth of who we are get obscured. So the moment that we decide on a goal, we're going to have to deal with all of those things. We're going to have to deal with our values. We're going to have to deal with our beliefs and any self-sabotaging behaviors that we've used in the past. Because that's the stuff that comes up. That's the dust on the mirror. And so the antidote to truly cleaning our mirror is to reflect a bit upon who we are, where we are, and where we're going. That's really the core essence of what a recalibration process is all about. So recalibration, again, it's a thoughtful choice. It doesn't need to be driven by fear or anxiety. And instead, it is made by our examining our situation. And we can do that by asking a few questions. So think about these questions, folks. What is my motivation? And why do I want to complete this goal? How do I need to pivot my goal? Is my goal too big? Would it benefit to reset that goal and make it a little bit smaller? And who do I know that might be able to help me rechart my course? You see, the great thing about those questions is that it's not about abandoning the goal. It's about having us refine what we're learning about ourselves and about that goal to make it more effective for us, to make it become more of a reality. Because what does happen to many of us is that we do tend to abandon our goals because we haven't quite set them up the way we'd like to. And that's okay. It's an opportunity for us to learn and grow as men. And that's what the purpose of a goal is. It's not about achieving it. It's about what we become on that journey. So these are the exact kind of questions that we ask in the Hero's Quest journal and planner. So anybody that participates in our Hero's Quest, they get a 90-day Hero's Journal and Planner. And in that planner, I take them through a goal refinement process that'll distill the goals into each of the 6 pillars of life. Now, I use 6 pillars. There's lots of different ones. I use a financial, spiritual, relationships, professional, emotional, and physical. And once you have those 6 key pillars, you work through a process of coming down with 3 total goals. And from there, you're going to distill it down to one main goal that you'll choose to complete over the next 90 days. See, that goal then is carried forward on a week-to-week basis. And what you're doing with it is you're going to put a tactical action plan towards achieving that goal. So we do that because it needs to be something that's front and center. Life will come upon us. Every moment and every day, things are going to come into us. And if we don't have it written down and it's not in front of us, guess what's going to happen? Life's priorities will take over and be the priority of your day instead of you making your mission, your goal, as being the priority of the day. So refinement will come along, right, as I've talked about, and you'll get a chance to look at it. You get a sense to what it's going to look, feel, and really be like once it's completed. So the process really tries to get this goal really embodied into who we are so that we can have a better understanding. And when we have that emotional attachment to the goal, then we have a sense of being able to accomplish it better. But when we don't have that congruency, that's when we tend to struggle with achieving our goals. Now, you can find that information, like I said earlier on, at our membership site at members.theawakenedman.net if you're interested in seeing what the action plan looks like. But now let's get, now that we talked about that, let's tackle what the next 3 months of this recalibration phase is really going to look like. Now, there's lots of different ways we can attack calibration. And as I thought about how recalibration has worked in my life and in the lives of other great leaders, I came down to 3 perspectives that I think we can use to capture how we can recalibrate our lives. So we start with July and with the discernment between nature and nurture. So there's a spectrum in psychological circles that speaks towards this idea of nature versus nurture. And both of these speak about our behaviors and whether we tend to slide on the nature end of the spectrum or the nurture end of the spectrum. And nature refers to all the genes and hereditary influences about who we are, from our physical appearance to our personality characteristics. While on the other end of the spectrum, nurture refers to the environmental variables that impact of who we are. This includes our early childhood experiences, how we were raised, our social relationships, and our surrounding culture. So on the nature side, we tend to believe that we are products of our evolution, with genetics playing a key role in how our behaviors are formed. So put it another way, I think of it almost like a fixed mindset. Nurture, on the other hand, is all about having a clean slate, meaning that we can evolve, learn, and transform as we gain experience from living life. Think of it this way, as more of a growth mindset. So I believe nature does play a part. Don't get me wrong. I think it plays a part in how our genetics influence eye and hair color and hereditary illnesses. But the awakened man realizes and understands that he is not stagnant because of his genetics. No, he might not be able to jump as high as Michael Jordan, but he does have control over shaping his destiny through nurturing the 4 key elements of himself. And so in July, this month here, we're going to talk about nurturing our soul, our mind, our bodies, and our heart. And that's the type of things we're going to speak about and we're going to dive into for July. When we get into August, the theme and the focus for recalibration in August is going to be all about recharging. As we get into the dog days of August, it's going to be easy for us to fall into a feeling like being drained. Like, let's face it, that hot weather for sure is going to do that to us. But it's also a great time to recharge our lives. Generally speaking, depending on our industries, they do take a bit of a slower pace. Unless, of course, you've been in the hospitality business like I have. It's pretty steady, pretty busy in the summer months as well. But this is another one where we shouldn't be waiting 6 months to build our clarity into what we need to have in our daily activities. See, we charge our phones, don't we, ever on a daily basis? So why are we not recharging ourselves? So we're going to really think about in the month of August of how we can nurture our mind, body, heart, and soul. And we're going to concentrate on how that looks from a recharging perspective. So recharging is going to be we're going to talk more than just getting enough sleep. It's going to be about maintaining a well-being in all aspects of our life. And I really like how Garrett J. White puts it. He talks about it as body, being, business, and mind. And so we're going to focus, just really distill those 6 pillars into the 4 key areas. And then we get into August. Well, August theme is going to help us remain in peak performance, because by July and August, they've finished up, that will have given us that peak performance mindset that we need. Our bodies will have been recouped. We'll be ready to get on to that next level. Well, that next level starts in September. And September's theme for recalibration is all about a retooling phase. And so this retooling phase is going to be somewhere between the point of retooling, or it could look like sharpening the saw, as Stephen Covey would put it. See, we're getting ready for that 4th quarter push. So we still have more time here to accomplish the things that we're looking to get done this year. And by this time, think about it. We've reflected, we've nurtured, we've recharged our bodies, mind, and spirit. These are all the elements now that should be part of our daily rituals. Now we're truly operating at peak performance. But there is one thing missing, and that's ensuring we have the right tools for the job and that our axes are sharp. So how do we retool? We can retool by getting new tools, talk about generating some new skills. And when we go to sharpen our saw, we're going to look at refining the tools or the tactics that we currently have in deployment. So what we really want to do is ensure that the things that we're focusing on, the priorities that are there that we need as priorities to achieve the things that are important to us, stay as important things to us. And so we're going to work and talk about how that is going to look in recalibrating and how we can embody that on a daily and weekly basis. So we're really going to spend the last month here, September, or the last part of that quarter, really focusing on the throughput. So we're going to be ruthless about what our priorities look like, and that'll allow us for us to be present, not just in our personal life, but in our professional life as well. And of course, as you know, within each month, we're going to continue with our book of the month. We'll have podcasts to help with the learning and the teaching, and there'll be other content to support our work as our goal is evolving into strong and resilient men. There's so much information, tools, tactics that we can touch on in the next 90 days that will propel you towards becoming the man that you are meant to be. But if you want to go even deeper with recalibrating your life, then I really, truly recommend you joining our Awakened Man community. Join our Band of Brothers Men's Circle. We offer a structured group format that gives men a guide to help them living meaningful and purposeful lives. And if you're still not sure, I'm offering a free 30-minute consultation for anyone interested in more information. All you're going to need to do is just click the link. I'll have it in the show notes down below. And then you'll get an opportunity to spend some time with me, and we can talk about what your priorities are and what you're trying to get accomplished. But remember, the men that flourish are those that are ready to take responsibility for where they are today, for who they are today, and for what they aspire to become or who they aspire to become. Now, if that sounds something like somebody like you, then I look forward to seeing you in our brotherhood. Thank you for joining me today, gentlemen. Aho, my brothers.
Thank you for listening to the Evolving Man podcast. Are you ready to own your destiny? To become more the man you are destined to be? Join the brotherhood that is The Awakened Man at theawakenedman.net and start forging a new destiny today.